Welcome, everybody, to episode 49 of Martinis with Scott on this coronavirus theme week. Happy St. Patty's Day. This is the only green I have, and also while I'm in self-isolation, I have been out bushwhacking trails around my property here. So it's been a fun day, been super busy in self-isolation. It's hard to believe. So we're coming to you today, Martinis with Scott, from beautiful Fernie, British Columbia. And what I'm going to talk about today with you is business cash flow during a crisis. We have the coronavirus. Businesses are being shut down, big and small, like flat out shutdowns if you're in the hospitality service industry, like restaurants, bars, yoga studios, gyms, the ski hills. We're in a ski country here. All the local ski hills have been shut down. So we canceled our holiday trip for March break, for example. And many businesses are not necessarily shut down, but they're in serious trouble and they're not going to come out of this thing unscathed. So think airlines, hotels. I think occupancy rates are around 10-20%, depending on where you are right now. I mean, it's just, and this is a big time of year, obviously, March break for big time of year for the hotel hospitality industry. Cruise ships are toast, construction. I was speaking with a special loans officer today. Special loans officers are bank managers that deal with accounts that are in serious trouble within the bank, and they're heavily focused on construction because most government jobs are going to be pulled, and you can't easily cut down your expenses, your fixed costs in the construction business. And the overhead that you carry. So they believe that there's going to be a significant problem in that industry. Obviously, energy has got its own issues that just sit on top of the coronavirus issues. And so oil's tanked. That's making projects unprofitable. And so I don't see that industry coming back unscathed anytime soon. So let's say you're one of these businesses. Let's say you're a business that's completely shut down. Let's talk some strategies about how you might be able to hunker down and save your business rather than going under and closing the doors and never coming back, which I fear, and the special loans guys that I talk to fear, and the solvency lawyers I talk to fear that that's exactly what's going to happen. So let's make sure that doesn't happen to you. Let's hunker down. So before we start about the ins and outs of cash flow, which is what this is all about. It's not about profitability. It's not about marketing. It's not about strategy. This is hardcore cash flow management for a short period of time, right? This is a transition issue. We've got a crisis. We know what it is. It'll be cured. I don't mean the disease will be cured. I mean the economic crisis will be cured. There'll be a time frame where you have to estimate what that is, and then the markets are going to start coming back. Not necessarily stock markets, but the market for your business, your restaurant, your yoga studio, whatever it is that you're running that has been closed. So first thing is you need to be in the right frame of mind. You need a frame of reference that you need to admit that you're in trouble and that drastic steps are required to save your business, if in fact that's the position that you're in. So we run at Sinclair Range, we run a 10-pointer checklist as to how to turn around a business. The number one is admit you're in trouble. So what does that mean? As a business owner, what does it mean to admit you're in trouble? What it means is to not be reactionary, to not take the money that you have, pay it to the people that you think are most important until it's gone, and then go out of business, right? It's to not react one by one to the arrows that are coming at you every single day, multiple arrows per day, and you just take the hit, and you take the hit, and you take the hit, and then you're dead, right? Instead, get in front of this thing, get a shield, stop those errors. I did not write out this analogy, by the way. I'm quite liking it. Just came to me as I was talking, but you get in front of this thing and stop the hits coming at you. Lead. That's what it means. I'm in trouble. I need to lead, and I need to make hard decisions, and I need to make them today. How do you get in that frame of mind if you're struggling with it? Well, ask yourself some questions. If you go out of business 2 months from now, what good were you to your employees? Right? If you're struggling, or are you to your employees, if you're struggling with the idea of layoffs, it's not fair, these people need their income, they're isolated at home, it's this crazy virus. I mean, those are all reasonable things to think and to feel for sure. It's a really situation that sucks. But if you continue to pay them and then you close your doors because you're bust, because you're out of money, Was that the right long-term decision for you and for those employees? If they're out of a job 2 months from now, um, as this virus thing breaks and business gets back to normal and you're not around, you didn't do them any favors, right? That hurt them. So what good are you if you don't survive this? Your job number one is to survive so that there's jobs there for people when things turn around. What good are you to your landlord if he has to come and lock the doors 2 months from now because you're permanently shut down and go release this thing, release this property, right? You're no good to anybody if you're closed. Job number one is to save the business so there's jobs and commerce can go back to work, right? I think you logically can agree with all of that. And if you think about it that way and the decisions you have to make that way, then things become much more clear. You're in trouble, right? You're shut down, your cash flow is grounding to a halt, you're in trouble. What are you going to do about it? Everyone needs to share in the pain to survive this crisis. Everyone, all of your stakeholders need to share in this pain. You can't and you shouldn't burden this alone. And you say to yourself, what about fairness? Laying off the people isn't fair. Not paying my suppliers isn't fair. If you can't rationalize those decisions as fair to survive this crunch, you're not going to survive it, right? If you are in a cash crunch and you can't understand that delaying supplier payments or just not making supplier payments at all is a tough decision and a step that you need to make, you're not going to survive. It sucks. The situation sucks for everybody, especially the supplier you're not paying, but you need to focus on the greater good. All right. That's a frame of reference, a mindset that's really important to be able to restructure and get through this sort of crisis. Here's another frame of reference that I think is important. When you're entering the turnaround of a company, when you're entering a crisis situation, one of the things that's helpful to do is to think about, well, how long will this last? Like, how long of a period of a cash flow crisis am I trying to bridge? If I have a restaurant and it's closed because of this virus, when should I assume it's going to be open for business and my cash flow will start again, right? Because if you can't define that with some reasonableness, well, then you might as well just go out of business. You have to have a frame of reference, a point of view on how long of a problem this is going to be. So how long will you be closed? And let's talk about a restaurant as an example. It could be any business, but let's talk about a restaurant as an example. So let's say you're closed today. You actually closed last week. And your view is probably 2 to 3 weeks you're going to be closed, right? But your worst case scenario, figure out your worst case scenario. Let's say hypothetically in your business, you say the worst case is I'm going to be completely shut down for 6 weeks. That's a long time to be shut down and have no cash flow and no business. 6 weeks. That's a month and a half. That's your worst case scenario. In my experience, double that. Take your month and a half, make it 3 months. Assume you're going to be shut down for a full 3 months. And then after that, there's going to be a slow ramp up. If you're on the podcast, I'm moving my hand slowly to the right. I'm not creating a hockey stick where I've gone from nothing to 100% recovery right away. It's going to be a slow ramp up. But assume if you're doing nothing and you think 6 weeks is your worst case scenario, assume it's 12 weeks. Assume it's 3 months where you're going to have no cash. Now, so that's our hypothesis. We got 3 months in our hypothetical shutdown restaurant here. Now, let's look at our bank. We know what all of our costs are. If we paid all of our employees, if we paid our rent, if we paid our leased equipment fees, right? Because we got some big, refrigeration, capital expenditures, term loans, all that sort of stuff. We got our food suppliers. If we paid everybody in the normal course for 3 months and had zero revenue coming in, zero cash receipts, do we have enough money in the bank? If the answer is yes, no problem, right? If you want to spend that money and take the risk that your 3 months is the window and after that, then you're all good. You don't need to restructure, okay? If the answer is no, like most small businesses in particular, if you don't have the cash in the bank for that 3 month period, just do the math. What you're going to find out is you got a problem. And what do you do if you know there's a probability, it's more than a non-zero risk. There's a decent chance that you're going to run out of cash during this 3 month period. Well, you need to start saving cash now. And how do you start saving cash now? You stop paying your bills. That's how you do it. That's what a restructuring is. Stop paying your bills, hold on to the cash, um, because that's a win-win for you. And the win-win is if you were right about the 3 months, if you were wrong about the 3 months and the economy recovers quicker and you can go back to work quicker, well, then you owe those people some money because you were late paying your bills and you've got the cash still. So you use your cash to pay the bills and you go back to business. No big deal. Maybe you need a small restructuring, a small rethink on the ramp up of this business, but you're going to be fine. If it lasted longer, what if your 3 months was too short? What if it's 6 months and there's no way you're going to survive? Well, then you've built up a war chest because you've been saving this cash now in months 0, 1, 2, into month 3. You've been building this war chest, and it's a lot better to go through a formal restructuring and insolvency with a little war chest than it is with nothing in the bank. Believe me, that's a big deal. So if you're going to run out of money during your crisis period, you need to start saving and you need to start doing it today. So let's talk about the specifics of things, some things you might do. If you're managing cash flow, always think about cash in, cash out. Like make it that simple. So we're going to talk about cash in first. All right. So here's just some bullet points that I put down on ways to accelerate cash flow, get some money in the door in this situation. So let's say you're a business with some accounts receivables, and you're slow collecting. Let's say you have receivables from the energy sector, for example. As long as your counterparty isn't going to go bust and they're able to pay, call them and offer them discounts. Right? Take 95 cents on the dollar. They owe you $100,000. Pay them say just pay me $95,000 and I'll write off that $5,000, but get me the check today, or get me the cash, wire transfer, certified check, whatever, today. There's an option to accelerate your cash flow. Okay, you can sell your accounts receivable to a factoring company. Factorers are like little financial institutions, and what they do is they buy receivables. So, and they buy portfolios, not individual receivables. But if you're a company and you've got, make up a number, $1 million or $2 million of accounts receivable from otherwise good accounts, but they're not due for 120 days, sell them to a factoring company. Take your 95 cents on the dollar after collection. You might get, say, an 80 cent on the dollar advance, and then you get the rest after they collect it, but they go through the collection procedure. They're sophisticated at this, and you get some cash in the door right now. If you're my shutdown restaurant, I love this idea of selling gift certificates right now to bring money in to your loyal patrons who will come back and use those gift certificates in 3 months, 4 months from now when you're back open. That's a way to accelerate some cash flow, get some money in the door. Virtual solutions. If you're a gym, yoga studio, you can do virtual classes. You can do takeout from restaurants, which is sort of a virtual dining experience. There's some talk that the world's going to change to a kitchen. That restaurants are going to change to an external kitchen from houses in the future. I don't believe that things are going to be that drastic, but Amazon's hiring 100,000 people. Was announced in the Wall Street Journal this morning. I mean, this whole direct to consumer at their home thing is probably a fundamental shift in the way that we consume things. Anyways, restaurants go to takeout, services like yoga, gym studios, you can do virtual. I was texting yesterday with a couple of artists in Nashville, and one of them in particular was talking about they're organizing virtual concerts, virtual performances. So do that sort of stuff, market the hell of it, and find a way to monetize it. There's all sorts of different strategies for that. But those are great examples of bringing some cash in right away. In summary, you're looking for a way to provide value to your brand loyal customers when you're talking about these coupons and virtual gift certificates and virtual sessions. Provide some value to your brand loyal customers. They will step up for you. Lastly, on the cash inside, government support. We talked about this yesterday on the show. There's lots of federal government, state government, municipal government, provincial government in Canada. Lots of programs being put forward In Canada, BDC, we're looking at one, has got a program they just announced. EDC's got a program, the Export Development Corporation has got a program they just announced. Same in the US, they're all over the place. Do some research, get in on it. Um, I learned this today. I didn't know this before, but one of the significances of declaring a state of emergency in Ontario, for example, and every other jurisdiction, including in the U.S., is it triggers a lot of your insurance policies that you can actually go get insurance for loss of business and business continuation insurance because of this sort of disaster. Check your insurance policy, talk to your insurance broker. Maybe there's money to be had. Um, just reminds me, I need to talk to my people about that as well. For our companies are doing great. We don't have the cash, on that 3 month test. We're fine. We can continue on as normal, and we don't have anything in our portfolio currently that is in the service business that is completely shut down. So on that side, we're a little bit lucky, but on the cash side, we're good. And in fact, we're using this, as I said yesterday, as an opportunity to kick ass, to hunker down and beat the competition who otherwise is in chaos right now. Okay, that was cash in. Let's talk about cash out. So employees, Marriott today, one of the largest or the largest hotel company in the world, announced the furlough of tens of thousands of employees. The furlough. I'd never really heard that word in the I think that's more of an American thing in the context of employees. But what it means is layoffs. That's basically what it means. So they're putting tens of thousands of people out of work temporarily during this crisis, and those people will be receiving no pay, not some pay, not 80% pay, not 50% pay. They're receiving no pay, but they are receiving continued health benefits. All right. So Marriott is hunkering down. They've made that tough decision that we've talked about. You need to lay people off. You need to find the law within your jurisdiction, because it changes all over the place what you're allowed to do. You can learn that online. You can talk to an employment lawyer for 10 minutes. You can just call your local government agency and they'll tell you. But there's lots of information online about this, and you need to cut your employment expense, because you're doing no favors to these employees if you don't exist 3 months from now, or if you made them work and then ran out of money mid-pay period and don't pay them at all, which happens all the time. Don't do it. Make the hard decision up front, because it's a fair thing to do for these employees. And if you can continue their health benefits, do so, because that's a terrific thing to be doing, obviously, in this critical time. Your suppliers, you got a bunch of payables on your list. In our scenario of a restaurant, we shut down. If you're a really slow business, maybe you're buying a little bit, but you don't have enough money coming in, or you won't in your 3 month disaster plan here, to pay the suppliers on time or at all, potentially. It helps to remember what bankruptcy protection does. I'm not saying you're going to file for bankruptcy protection, but that's the formal way to go about not paying your suppliers and to restructuring your unsecured debt, which means suppliers. And if you had done that, if you'd gone Chapter 11 or CCAA in Canada, or Notice of Intent to File a Proposal in Canada, what do all of these things have in common? It's called a stay on existing debt. So they say the court says, issues a court order to all of your creditors. It says, okay, I'm not, that back debt, the money that company owes you, they're not going to pay it right now. They're just going to stop paying you, okay? And you will continue to supply and will pay most of the time, and the company will pay you COD. So you're not going to make the situation worse, okay? If we owe you $10,000 right now, we're not at any time going to owe you $11,000, all right? But we're also not going to owe you $9,000 until the end of this process. That's what bankruptcy protection does for a company like yours. Well, you could do the same thing informally. You can go to every one of your customers and every one of your suppliers, sorry, and you could say, I owe you $5,000. We can't pay you. We can't pay you. You could even say, we owe you $5,000. I can't pay you, so I'm not sending you any checks, except I need to buy another $1,000 worth of goods for whatever. Here's the $1,000 right now. And we're just going to see you at the end of this, 3 months, if it takes that long. And we're going to come back to you, and we either are just going to pay you what we owe you and move on, right? And have a happy supplier-customer relationship going forward, or we're going to have to restructure if things aren't going the way we thought. But for now, what we're doing is we're stopping and we're taking a holiday and we're not paying the check. Sound drastic? It is, but that's precisely what happens if you were going to bankruptcy protection. The court would do that for you, okay? So it is the fair thing to do from a restructuring perspective, and you need to make hard choices. Don't make the problem worse. Do not take more credit from anybody. Don't buy things on credit. Pay for what you're doing. But I suggest, but if you're shut down, you're not doing anything, and you just stop paying your suppliers. You have to do it, okay? And save that money. Things turn around 2 weeks from now, you got the money in the bank, pay the suppliers. All good, okay? But you need to start saving, as we said. Your bank. We've talked before about how to manage your bank at a time of crisis. You need to communicate. You need to have a cash flow model. There's other shows on that. I'll be doing more shows on that. Here's one thing that you could do today with your bank. You could stop paying the principal. It's called a principal holiday. You could even ask for an interest holiday, but interest holidays become a little bit problematic internally at the bank. But a principal holiday is easy. It's funny, I was thinking about that for the show today, and then I was talking to the special loans officer, as I said, and he volunteered that as things that they're doing for their clients. Well, we just take principal holidays. Interest is tough, but we can take a principal holiday. So stop paying the principal on your debt. And if you have a term loan on equipment, stop paying the principal. If you have leased equipment in your restaurant, call the people that gave you lease. Just say, look, I'm not paying this for 3 months, and they're going to threaten. Well, we're going to come take your equipment out, and just tell them fine. Get a court order, right? Good luck getting a court date today because all the courts are gone too, right? All the judges are out, right, for this sort of thing. So you need to take these drastic decisions, but you can get away with that. Term loans I talked about, your bank I talked about, your operating lease, your real estate. I can negotiate that, but it's tough. And I've been doing this for 30 years. You probably just need to pay your rent because landlords have all sorts of other remedies available to them. And if they're aggressive, and some are, it's tough. It's just tough. The law's not on your side for that. So you can get away with like 10 days and 15 days. And, you see companies all the time that haven't paid their rent in 3 months because the landlord's been pretty forgiving. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying the law's not on your side on this. And everything else I talked about, you're in a pretty strong position legally to not get shut down by whoever it is that you're not paying. All right. So there's some ideas for getting more cash in, to stop putting cash out, to help your cash flow. And then when you've made those hard decisions because you're in the right frame of mind, which is to save your damn business so that you're of use to somebody 3 months from now, then what you need to do is rebuild your new plan for the new normal because you're not going from zero revenue back to 100% day one. You need to build up, and maybe you're not at 100% for 2 years, right? Maybe the new normal is 70% or 80%. So maybe you don't hire back all of those people. Maybe you increment your way in the plan. Spend this time off thinking about those sorts of things. And here's an offer for you. If you're a listener, you hear this, you need to get some help to get through these decisions, to understand what you can get away with and what you can't get away with. You're in a war. You need someone giving you consultation. And if you want to call me or if you want to email me, they're going to put my phone number and the email in the description. And just call me up, email me, and you've got 5 minutes of my time for free. I won't charge you anything. Ask me questions. This is drastic times. I'm happy to help you try to work through that. Thank you for listening. This has been a Martinis with Scott. We are a show about winning at business, geared towards business managers, owners, entrepreneurs, directors, anybody who's excited about winning at business. And as a parting note, I want to thank my good friend Patty, who is not an Irish person despite her name. And she sent me a quote that I love today from Jackie Gleason. It said, "A man must defend his home, his wife, his children, and his martini." That's exactly what I do. With the parting thought, everybody have a great St. Paddy's evening.